Welcome back, Matt. It's just Math, y'all. Welcome to the video. We're going to look at solving systems of inequalities. And here we go. So, linear and nonlinear inequalities. This first one is going to be a nonlinear inequalities. Okay, and we're going to do regular and we're going to do systems. So here we go. First thing we want to do is graph these. We want to graph the corresponding y equals whatever. Pretend it says y equals and we'll graph it. Now, the first one is y is greater than or equal to x squared plus minus 5. So we're going to graph y equal x squared minus 5. Now, again, you can do that a couple of different ways. You can plot points, which is probably the fastest way. When you're doing MyLab, you only need 2 points. So when you're doing MyLab, that's all you need. So I'm going to plug in 0 for x, and I get negative 5 for y. And so 0, negative 5, that's 1 point. And then I'm going to plug in another point. That's all I need. If I plug in 1 for x, I get negative 4 for y. I just did that a little quick in my head. So I have a point there, which means my parabola is going to look like so. Okay, there we go. All right, so I graphed the corresponding y equals. Now, I didn't mention this, but because it is a greater than or equals, this is going to be a solid line. Solid when you do greater than or equals, or less than or equals. Either one of those. Okay, so now that's the equal part. We graphed the equal part. So now we want to shade. Shading above or below. Now that's going to be the greater than or the less than part. So logically, if it's in the y equal format, or if it says y greater than or equal, then it says y's are greater than. So we want to color the y's that are above the line. The y's that are above the line. So above would be greater than. So if I go ahead and stretch this out, let me do red again. If I go ahead and stretch this out so that it's thoroughly up here. There we go. That's so awful looking. Let's get my points. And there we go. And then I'm shading above the line. I'm shading above the line. So that would be the y's greater. These are the higher y values. Okay. So we're going to shade above the line. Okay. If it said y is less, we would shade below the line. But this one's greater, so we're always going to shade above. Wherever we're at, we're shade above. Okay? Now this next one is a less than. And it says y is less than 3 to the x. So we're going to graph y equal 3 to the x first. Let's see, what color do I want to do? I think I want to try the orange. Okay. So I'm going to do y is equal to 3x, but I'm going to do dotted. Okay, now you may not remember how to do the exponentials, but again, if you remember what they look like, it hasn't been that long since we've done them. If I plug in 0 for x, right, 3 to the 0 power is 1, so I have 0, 1. And if I plug in 1 for x, 3 to the 1 is 3. So I don't have but 2 points, and that's all I really need. And if I remember what it looks like this. Okay, there's my dotted line, and this one's dotted, so I've got that one. Now this one says less than. So less than is generally below the y's that are less. Okay, so generally below, I'm going to do this one. Less than, generally I shade below. So I'm going to shade the y's that are lower. And so because the graph has this, the y-axis, then below all of this is technically all below. I know it looks like it's not, but this is all below. And so that was this one's going to look like. Okay. All right, let's look at another one. This one is a system of nonlinear inequalities. Okay, this one's different. We have two of them, and we have to shade them, and we're shading the part that goes with both. Right, now, the first one is a circle, and the second one is also a circle. So we have two circles. Now, when it comes to circles, here's your rule. Less than is inside the circle. Greater than is outside the circle. Okay, so there's your little rule for doing less than or greater than with the circle. So let's draw the first one. The first one I'll do in pink. We have a circle. The radius is 3. Centered at 0, 0. So I have a circle. It's going around at 3. So that's this one. Again, it's real easy to draw these on my math lab. This one is greater than, so that's outside my circle. So I'm just going to put a little arrow. This is outside. I'm not going to actually shade it until I'm finished with the problem. So I would be shading outside my circle. Now, the next one, I'll do a different color. This one is less than. It's got a radius of 6. So I'm going to go 6 and 6 and 6 and 6. And I'm going to draw this big old circle here. The radius is 6. Okay, but it's less than, so that's inside. That's inside the circle. So now you can see that the shading is between the two. I have a donut here. So the shading is actually going to be between. This is the between. Here we go. And we have that there. Okay, so this is a system of nonlinears, which means we graph both of them and then we shade accordingly. Now, we didn't talk about checking on the previous problems. You can check your points. You can check. Let me show you what you can do. Goodness, let's... To check these, get out of my PowerPoint, there we go. To check, you just pick a point that you shaded. Pick any point that you shaded and plug it in to see if it works. So, for instance, this is a point right here. I shaded it. That is the point 3, 3. Okay, if I check that point into both equations, it should work. So 3 squared plus 3 squared, is that in fact greater than 9? Well, of course it is. It's 9 plus 9, which is 18. So that checked. Now let's plug it into the other one. Is 3 squared plus 3 squared less than 36? Well, of course it is. It's 18. So it checked. So that confirms that one of the points that I shaded, which is 3, 3, I just picked one, works. I shaded the right section. You can do that with all of your shading. Pick a point that you shade, plug it in, and make sure you get a true statement. Okay, I've got one more slide, but I'm going to come back and do it in just a few minutes. All right, it's just math, y'all. It's not so bad.